Welcome to IT Mastermind Talks, your access to insights and experiences from thought leaders in the IT services industry and those that support the industry. Our podcast features not only the seasoned professionals charting their start to exit journey, but also the key contributors who help ensure their success. We delve into the diverse challenges encountered within the IT services realm, encompassing both professional hurdles and personal obstacles. Join us, be part of our growing community, and engage in the conversation. Hosted by Ian Markram of LoadingGrowth.
Great to have you here, Ian. It's been a long time that we've known each other. You've been one of my clients for, I think, 3 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. So it's awesome to catch up in person, not on the other side of Teams. And it's going to be great to talk about your journey from where you were, how you started out as a IT professional services business owner to where you are at the moment. And everyone goes through an up and down journey. I've been through a journey myself to get to this point as well. So let's start off just a bit about on the background, Ian, and where did you start? What inspired you to be a business owner as you are now? How did you get there?
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I think where the journey started in terms of launching into business was I was in the corporate world and busting to not be in the corporate world. So the journey was very much one of leveraging the experience that I had and taking that across the fence into the consulting arena. So we started out very much taking to market the things that I was, the capability that I'd built individually out to market as a business. I'd found myself running some large business startup and infrastructure, bank in the investment banking world. So I learnt a lot in that journey, but I felt strongly I fitted.
You're ready
elsewhere.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
good. That's awesome. I know it's been a while. How long has the business been going for?
22 years.
Wow.
Come November or last November.
It's quite amazing. That's brilliant. What if you can think back that far? What were the sort of initial steps that made you actually kick off the business? If you can remember, you mentioned that how you sort of transferred from the industry into consulting, but do you remember what was like, that feeling? Was this nervousness around that?
Look, I had great conviction about where I wanted to be and where I didn't want to be, but I knew that I needed to learn more about where I wanted to take things. And so I spent some significant time before making the transition drinking coffee, building the network, and I very quickly came to the realization that every conversation that I was having, I learned something important, and that theme just keeps going. So I was living in one world, the corporate world, and stepping out through those series of conversations. They were insightful. They gave me things to think about, and they also connected me to new people.
Great. So that sort of that legwork that you did, that groundwork, made you comfortable to actually jump ship from industry into IT services.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
and consulting. That's really good. What was your vision, if you can remember that far back? Your vision was of your business is now very different, obviously, to what it is. But if you think back then, did you have a sort of a vision of where you wanted to go, or did you have an idea?
Yeah. So I guess that the work that I was doing was around managing large scale IT delivery projects in the corporate world. It's fair to say the vision was flaky, but it was off the back of some experiences that went very well. And I felt that they were packageable offerings. Now, obviously, customers determine who you are, not the dreams that you might necessarily have. So we launched as a project management consulting business, offering capabilities around program delivery, but in particular working with corporates to help them establish the wherewithal to run projects. So building the method and driving the change initiative to help corporates run projects more successfully.
Okay,
So
good.
That's how we started.
Yeah. Your first client, it's always the joy. I remember when I got my first client when I was consulting, and you got that first sort of PO that comes through.
Yeah.
It was quite an exciting moment, and I know 22 years ago is a while back. But what did you do when you first got your first client? Did you celebrate?
Yeah. I can't remember. It was probably more trepidation of, now I've got one. So I was again off the back of the sort of networking. An opportunity came about quite quickly. Leading a project for a share registry operation, joint venture between I think it was ASX and Perpetual, doing this is some time ago, but basically a major system deployment. So I found myself sort of playing a project management role, leading that.
Okay. Any sort of the challenges that you can imagine, look back, that you had, starting up, for those people that want to actually jump ship from a big corporate, like a big 5 consultancy firm or a big systems integrator, how do you actually, how do you actually think about those challenges, jumping ship, and starting out as a small business? Do you sort of have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, lots of thoughts. I look back and I think, it's embarrassing to think about how much I didn't know about what I was doing. It's all very well and good to know where you don't want to be and to imagine where you do want to be. But when, as largely a technical professional, whether that's in project delivery, which was my ultimate space, or some other technical discipline, it's really important to know that you need to think commercially and you need to know and be focused on sales, because otherwise you're just a technical set of arms and legs. You might be a leader of projects, but you're still a body as part of someone else's machinery. And as running a business, you need to be generating pipeline and understand that for things to be sustainable, you can't just bury yourself in a project, because otherwise you're just a sole trader contract. You're not a business owner with a business behind you.
Yeah. Really important. I see all the time when I speak to prospects that come on board to the program, and they basically either are contractors, they've left the world and want to set up a consultancy firm, IT consultancy firm, and they end up getting caught up in just being a glorified business, which is really a contractor. The biggest thing that's holding them back, as you mentioned, really is the sales factor and repeatable sales. And that is the challenge, I think, of an early stage that I see all the time, is how to get that machine working, and not be the sole breadwinner for it.
Yeah.
Let's just move more on to the growth and development of your organization. And how did you scale your business? And I suppose we just talked a bit about that, but how did you scale your business from the early days to where you are now? What was the things that you did to scale?
Yeah. Let's see. So the journey is very much one of, let's see what we talk about here. The journey was one of a vision of building solution assets. So wanting to, we recut the strategy in 2006, I think. And the vision there was clear, and it was about offering a greater value add to, our customer demographic. And that was shifting from really project management consulting and those change projects to having solutions. So that was the I guess the criteria. From there, we moved into the process automation space. We delivered some great projects, delivered some, won some really significant deals for some of our software vendors. Some were largest in Southern Hemisphere at the time. And these were top tier players, not yet established in Southern Hemisphere. But we found ourselves learning about different domains, and we pursued an agenda of building assets over the things that we learned. And we didn't, we rebuilt things the way we thought customers more broadly might want to consume some of the solutions that we had. We've probably been on that costly journey a couple of times. And yeah, certainly some really big lessons. The first one, something called Workday came along, and the proposition we had, we were not able to get off the ground with the back-to-back commercials with our software vendors. We tried it again with a solution that's a very exciting story, which we can talk about when you talk about the highlights. But there was a solution where, again, we won a Gartner Award for a customer. It was filling a significant gap in the market, but the commercials didn't sort of quite line up. But we've learnt a lot in that area of around a strategy of not delivering orphan projects and doing something foreign each time we start.
Yeah, that unique thing that people get caught up with.
Yeah, so we've learned a lot. We've got a lot of orphans. We've learned a lot across industry. We've worked in many industries over our time. But I think you asked me a different question about how did we scale. We started really much. We moved. We transitioned across to IBM, and that took us into a large partner network, and that's where we really got focused on partnering or exploring partnership with other people in this big ecosystem, where there was a lot of players who did things very different to what we did. And so my theory has always been we're all sitting on each other's customers, but all these opportunities are not, consummated because we don't know about the opportunities for ourselves on the clients of others, and vice versa. So that's really how we launched.
The next thing is, when I look at the growth and development, when I'm speaking to clients that have been coaching or prospects, and is what are the strategies they're using to attract customers and then retain customers? It's quite important, because what actually tends to happen that I see is companies basically get a bit of a sales machine working, and then they rush from one client to the next client without actually sitting back and going, you know what, we've got a lot more to offer to that client. But it's easier, they think, to go to the next client and actually just do the same thing over again. Okay. I'm not saying creating new orphan projects or doing something that's not in your skill or wheelhouse at that client, but it's not selling that picture. So, I always say to people, attracting a client is hell of important, and then retaining a client is hell of important. So how are you attracting clients at the moment, and then how are you retaining clients at the moment, Ian?
Right. So I guess we made refinements to our go-to-market approach and offering probably around the time we met you, probably 3 or 4 years back, where we realized that we had some very strong opportunities in a niche segment, and so our go-to-market approach was to be very specific in the offering, which was all around the automation of all things finance in the office of CFO, and to really understand the stakeholder and buyer personas, and to craft campaign through, the LinkedIn and social media channels to pursue connections, to build brand through webinar and other sort of social media activity. So that process has worked really well. It's given us focus and discipline, and it's given clarity around our pursuit, and that continues to work for us today.
Great. That's hell of important. What you said there is gold. I think, anyone out there running an IT services firm, doesn't matter how big or small they are, they should be really looking at, what you've just said there and taking that on board. Thanks for that. The retaining the clients. So, you've talked about the pursuit, as you call it in your words, how you actually manage to win those clients, and you're doing that well at the moment, and it's fantastic. But how are you retaining those clients at the moment?
Yeah. So, look, I think the stats say, just off the back of your earlier comment, the easiest opportunities are the ones with the customers that you already have, and referrals is after that, and cold calling and new prospects is long way back. So, we are really increasingly attuned to how we love our customers. We really, I guess, we really need to understand our customer. Every customer is different. We're all individuals. We're people and they're people. Sometimes we can be a bit difficult, just like they can be difficult. And so it's really about understanding the customer and their goals and their sensitivities and, the what's in it for thems, and walking alongside them. So very much we talk about, being their trusted advisor. It's very important that we keep connection, not just in times of active delivery and billing, but, it's the conversations, it's the informal relationships, it's building those good relationships, understanding what they're trying to achieve, understand where they're stuck. Doesn't matter if it relates to what we're doing for them or not. So it's really about that nurture. Opportunities will come. It's about giving, and the get will follow.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that. I think the challenge with customers sometimes is they've been dealing with a large amount of system integrators or big consultancy firms, and they're very nervous to have them basically coming on board as a consultancy firm, and then they have an arm's length, procurement's involved and everything's involved. And the companies I coach are really niche. They're specialized, and that's one of the things that when I actually bring a client on board that I involve in the coaching program, is to make sure that there is value that they can deliver to clients. They're famous for something. What I used to notice when I was in the consultancy world was clients were always, arm's length, but until they got to realize, as a niche player and specialize in what you do, you actually can bring value, and then you're not going to overeat or overconsume their budget in other areas and not deliver value. So I think that's, hopefully a lot of my ex-clients are listening to this and take note, because I'm a big believer that they should be working closely and even closer with system integrators. But the big ones, they're hard to manage, when they come on site. So the next thing is any pivotal moments that you can think of that have impacted the growth of your company in the last year or two. Anything that's changed that you got right that you think of?
So I think the pivotal moments are really in line with, I guess, some of the conviction of strategy. Lots of buses come by that you could chase, and it's tempting to chase those buses or opportunities if you don't have a filter to fit them against. So I think our journey in recent years, off the back of launching, is, we've learned to say no. We don't do that. We can refer you to someone else. So I think that has allowed us to just build rather than go sideways. It's allowed us to build and extend rather than, almost get distracted and start a new capability without even realizing it. But it's always from scratch. So holding firm, building momentum, deepening capability, extending on the focus that we've, set out to,
Brilliant.
execute.
That is so perfect. Another real golden nugget there. When I see clients for the first time, I can see they're under stress. And the reason why they're under stress is because they don't have the depth and capability, as you just said. And they're trying to do too much with not enough depth. And therefore they're putting themselves under stress and reinventing. And they're on this continuous hamster wheel, trying to reinvent. And they're putting themselves under stress, less margins, more rework, unhappy clients. Yeah, it's really important, really good nugget of information there, and something that I think is pivotal for your growth to keep them going. And I think it's really good. One of the things about IT services is IT is always evolving. It's changing quite a bit. And you've been through this over your 22 years. You've changed course because the software vendors have either fallen out of favor with a certain technology, or technology just has moved on and someone else has filled that gap that you're at. And it is tough. How's that impacted your business? You were once a big IBM partner and you're no longer really a big IBM partner at the moment. How's that impacted your business at the moment?
Look, I think we have to change, so it was important that we diversified and refocused. And so it's amazing how fast things are moving. Once a technology generation might have been 10 years and now it's seems like a generation of technology is 18 months. So the problems that can be solved now with what's available are so different to what was available, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. So it's so important to just keep up with the change. And for us, it's a realization that we have customer opportunities, with an existing customer demographic that can be addressed very, very efficiently with the newer capabilities that we're working with and focusing on around the AI and robotics and what have you.
Yeah, that leads into the next question quite nicely, the innovation. And how's that, how are you taking that to market, and how is that really, part of your strategy at the moment as a business? How do you, because it's always evolving the whole time.
Yeah. No, look, I think it's we've had sort of invested significantly in innovation and building IP and experimenting with new technologies. I think it's a balance between exploring and playing and being commercial. You could play. It's really fun. It's really fun playing.
For sure.
Not that I'm the player, but it's really fun to explore. Quite often you find the guys with billions of dollars of revenue are onto the same thing you might be exploring.
For sure.
And so, all of a sudden, it's commercially available from someone else at a very cheap price globally. Yeah, so the importance of innovation, that is really key. We have, in years gone by, invested significantly in exploring new capabilities, inventing new offerings, leveraging, R&D tax grant. For sure, that's been very helpful in the learning and understanding and building capability in the team. Very important to keep the balance between, fun experimentation, but it needs to be balanced with the commercial imperative. So you sort of need a little bit of tight rein and scope and confinement, but not too much. Otherwise, you're not innovating. But it needs to align with what's going to benefit your customers as opposed to amuse the technical genius in the team. So I think for us, the innovation is all around understanding the capability of new technology components that augment and fit into our offering and extend the offering. So not sort of totally left field and adjacent, but complementary to building and expanding. That's our focus for innovation.
Great. We're going to move on to a bit more of a different theme, team and culture at the moment, and it's really the important thing, as we know, is we're a services business, so people is really our product, and it's important to keep building those teams and keeping them, the culture, making sure the culture is right, fit for you and also for your clients, I suppose. How do you go about sort of build your team culture and building your team?
Yeah, so people are the technology is the easy thing, and the people and getting the people right is the hard thing. I think you and I talk about the pub test all the time when you're meeting new people. They've got to feel right. You've got to be able to relate to them. And obviously that's, tempered by or needs to go with the right competency and skills. So especially for our consultant, client-facing consulting members of the team, it's very important that people are well-rounded and our customers will like them, but that they have the skills to, communicate, explain, persuade, and deliver, so that the customer is, delighted in what we do for them. And so the DNA, especially of the consulting leads, really important. So culture, fit. We try to build a close-knit core. We have a close-knit core, and it's how do we plug new people in so that core, just increments out and stays intact.
It's interesting because if you look back in the last 4 or 5 years, the core team is changing. And because everyone's more diversified working, but also spread out as well, remote. So there's a lot of different cultures happening and a lot of different forces that are driving consulting. And it'll be interesting to see where consultancy firms end up in the next 2 to 3 years. With global, offshoring, onshoring, nearshoring, whatever you have, and then you mix that all up into a blended team to get a good outcome at a good price point for clients. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. The other thing, how do you keep people motivated and productive? As a remote. If you've got people remotely working, because not many clients nowadays are actually working on client sites as much. You might go there for a kickoff, for a couple of meetings every now and then, but most people now are working remotely. Yeah. And your team's working remotely. Any thoughts on how to keep them, productive and motivated?
Yeah, I think regular communication. We can't change the amount of contact. I think it's important to be engaging daily in the regular, the formal, touch points, the daily stand-ups, the weeklies, etc. I remember in the early days of COVID, let me just try and remember the phrase. I'd try and encourage the guys to do walk by each other's desks, except in a remote context. Just press the call button and have a chat to someone. Ask how they're going. Just check in. Don't wonder how they're going. And keeping people involved, keeping people abreast of what's going on. Throwing people in the deep end so they're challenged. Our consultants at the front line of the business are racing thoroughbreds. They want to be challenged and busy, and deep end is better than a wading pool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I always say if people don't have interesting projects to work on, consultants, they'll tend to leave the organisation. So they've got to be challenged a little bit, and get that momentum going, and get that really happening for them. So the next thing is we really want to talk about is, what services and clients that you basically, what type of services do you offer currently? And I know they evolved over time because, as we mentioned early on, tech and implementations and solutions have changed over the last 20 years. So I suppose, what type of services are you currently offering at the moment, and how do you go to market with those services?
Yeah. So, well, firstly on the services, our engine room capability is underpinned by all things automation, but we marry that with a business consulting skill. So our target customer is the CFO. The CFO, or the Office of Finance, represents the biggest transactional workload in the enterprise, and quite often it is operating in a suboptimal way. There's lots of workarounds, there's lots of manual work, there's lots of spreadsheets. Accountants love spreadsheets and they're so inefficient. So, all that disconnect in system that gives rise to manual work, errors, rework, delays. That's what we address with automation. But our mission is to make sure we understand the business objectives, really clearly understand the problem and deeply, and we work through, I guess, a business improvement agenda based on really clear objectives, and then deliver on business case with automation.
Great. How do you describe your ideal client? I mean, there's never an ideal client. I mean, as a consultant background, every time we would start a new project, we go, is this the client that's going to be the perfect client? And you have this vision that it's going to be the perfect client, the perfect implementation, the perfect result.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it never really fits. All three of those things never fit.
Yeah.
And, it's disheartening every now and then, but there's a bit of a tunnel at the end for the consultants.
Yeah.
So how do you describe your ideal client, and then how do you target them? I suppose, how do you actually get to know them, and how do you service them? So, who's your ideal client at the moment?
Okay. So our ideal client is really a business sponsor, a CFO, who's walked into a situation that is somewhat untidy.
Yep.
And is ripe for really dramatic transformation. So, and quite often what's behind that is, not every organisation has got sort of banking grade expertise driving process efficiency and integrated systems. And so these platforms, processes, governance, ways of working are, in some cases, very much neglected. So when we see a finance executive, a financial controller, a CFO, deputy CFO, who's been in an organisation for not very long, it's kind of an indicator to us that they're not responsible for whatever might exist. So when there's a static sort of technology, tenure of leadership there, combined with a refresh on the business, that's really, I guess, the sign. Other attributes are really a sponsor who wants to transform and understands that, the business benefit. They're keen to redeploy people onto more valuable things or to right-size the organisation. That's where there's the business case. That's where the real money comes from in making that, benefits realisation.
How do you? I know you get a lot of referrals, which is really good because you've got a good network and you've got a good track record of 22 years running a great business. So besides the referrals, how are you actually getting new clients? What's a couple of tricks? You mentioned LinkedIn, you mentioned marketing and a few things at the moment. And sort of how are you getting new clients at the moment?
The LinkedIn gives us presence. It gives us connection. It gives us a platform to, run events and webinars. People are very accessible in terms of attending webinars when there's a subject that is of interest to them. So we're aligning, I guess, our offering and our message to what's of interest to CFOs. Look, there's no substitute for boot leather. My friend Sydney Manassian gave a talk recently, and he speaks about increasing the luck surface area. I think it's a fantastic phrase. So I've always been of the philosophy that, none of us know where our next deals are coming from. And so being in market, talking to customers, talking to people, being present online, being present physically, maintaining relationships with partners, making sure people know what you're doing. Again, that idea of we're all sitting on each other's customers as people in a partner community. How can we collaborate? So we seek to just sort of foster that whole dynamic by being ever present.
Great, thanks for that. What are the common challenges you face when working with clients? What are the sort of pitfalls? A generic. Don't have to think of any clients in particular, but what are the common challenges that you see?
Yeah, look, I think it's quite often, we don't have the customer's mind and they don't have our mind. Yeah. And so from there, the work begins, and the work prevails. So we need to be educating the customer all the time on what we do and how it fits and how what we do impacts their business. And so we need to be there so our customers can understand, and so our customers can leverage our expertise. So many of our people have tier 1 enterprise grade banks, insurers, top end of town experience. And, so we have experience that many of our customers in the mid-market, mid-enterprise don't have. So, the work is keeping close to our customers. When we deliver a project in automation, roles completely change. Often, some roles will exist. In fact, many roles won't exist, but we create new roles, and customers can't imagine what we're talking about. And we talk about a customer doesn't know what they've got until we've delivered the first outcome. Then they're qualified to know, and until then, it's work to make sure that they are as close as possible to knowing what to expect.
Great. I love the education part. You've got to keep on re-educating the client the whole time. They're busy doing their jobs. They're tired. They're frustrated, and you got to keep them. You got to keep your wits while you're doing that education piece and take them through that journey. It's really important. Well done, and it's fantastic. Now, how do you? We just talked about the clients, the challenges you have at clients, the generic sort of challenges you have. How do you keep the quality of work? We're a services organization. Your company is, I should say. How do we keep that quality of work, ensure that's quality, that it's at the highest standard? Well, you've got multiple clients, multiple programs running at the same time. Gets quite complicated. How do you ensure that quality stays at the level that's required?
Yeah, so quality, I guess there's a number of sort of key factors to it. Obviously, there's the things that are a given. You need competent people, experienced people, but behind that, you need, the journey that we're on is really trying to build repeatability in the business, not just in the headline of what we do, but in the way that we do it. So, talking about the package offerings that you've talked to us about. Standardizing our methods, building SOPs for our own back office activities, building method, repeatable method, and just starting to to be just forever maturing, refining, so that we take the key person dependency out of things, and we have a sort of a maturing and ever refining baseline of how we do things. So
that's good. That's really good. I mean, that's spot on, and I know that you're doing all those activities, and it's hard to do them. It's not easy. It's time consuming. It costs money, and you've got to do that. Otherwise, you're never going to scale as an organization. It's one thing winning work and then solving that problem. Then the next problem is actually trying to deliver it on scale.
Yeah.
And making sure the client gets. That's fantastic. Thanks for that. I know because I work with you as in coaching, and I know you get some really good success stories. And I'm amazed by the value that you bring to customers when you talk to me about what you're currently doing on client sites, and it's very impressive for a team of that when you go to deliver. Can you just give us an example of what you're currently doing on site, and the cost benefits and the ROI on that? Because I think that's everyone in the systems world and system services world, they say there's ROI, and 2 years later, people still try to work out where it is. Yeah, but you guys are in there quite impactful, doing small pieces of work. Can you just talk and elaborate on that as a case study?
Yeah. So the type of work that we do, and the capability underpinning what we do allows us to deliver a portfolio of incremental pieces of work. And so each of those pieces of work typically amounts to obviously there's some upstream activity around reshaping process, changing roles around that business advisory. But ultimately what we deliver is a portfolio of solutions where each one requires an incremental investment, and it's undertaken based on some prior sort of assessment of opportunity that identifies really an ROI based on multiple things, but primarily labour takeout, and so that's ultimately where a business case comes from for many of our customers. It's not just that; it's about quality. It's about removing backlogs, processing backlogs, closing your books every month, and with all the right numbers in all the right places. But the outcomes are really clear, and we are taking out between 2 and 4 people out of 6-person processes. We're probably doing 3 of those in the across the a 6-month period at the moment.
Wow, that's a very from a redeployment for companies, big companies that need to redeploy people to more skilled roles, things like that. People just don't want to do those skilled roles going forward. Yeah, so I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, look, it's very exciting. It's tangible. And if I sort of go back to some of the early strategy documents that we've sort of wrote very long time ago, what's remained through the ages in our context is delivering real, tangible outcome, measurable outcome, and this is really the what we do now. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thanks. That's I know the ins and outs of the details, and it's just fantastic, and I think that's why you have got a great business, to be honest. Okay, so we're going to move on to the challenges and lessons. So what are the biggest sort of challenges you faced as a business owner in the IT services industry? Is it sales, marketing, staff delivery? Is it a combination of everything? But what are the biggest challenges you faced over the last 22 years?
Yeah, I think. Gosh, how long have you got? Yeah. So I think sales is big. Not taking for granted the need to build pipeline and generate interest in the market for what you do. We've just been very lucky for a long, long time where we've lived off network, and we've bounced from sort of one large program of work to another for many years until the sort of last 5 years where we've had a lot of repeatability. And it's not to say that, that either model is, better than the other. I'm probably very happy about what we're doing now in terms of the broad market appeal for what we're doing. But really, sales, understanding how you're going to get customers, really how you're going to cut. And it's beyond the people you know. It's not just the people you know. That's how you might start, but it's not how you're going to finish. And it's not going to how you're going to survive. I think the other one is just being, just clear on the go-to-market. What is your offering? Who is your buyer? What's their demographic, their persona? What do they want? What are they trying to achieve in their situation? You've got to put your head in their head. And you've got to have something that they want.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's something you got to solve. I always say the bigger the problem you solve for a client, the more you get paid for it. That's really what it is. That's a consultancy firm, any consultancy firm. Competition, there's a lot of competition in the market. There's offshore, onshore, nearshore. There's just, companies, competing with you. How do you think about competition? How do you actually, handle it? Okay.
I think it's really important for us to understand who we are and who they are. We do good things. Our competition does good things, but different things. And so we're increasingly aware of how we need to articulate how and why we're different and for that to be real. So, for us, we're able to deliver accelerated value in a bespoke way. Obviously, we've got lots of IP and capability, but we're able to match the exact requirement of the business and solve things exactly by understanding the challenge and the problem and situation clearly. We're not a body shop. We're not a large scale. We match with our customers in terms of mid-enterprise. We understand their problems. We've got strong referenceability with customers, that are familiar with the ones that we're pursuing.
Okay, great. Now, 22 years, it's a long, good track record. It's amazing. And you must have had a lot of big challenges. And I've had challenges when I was running a services firm. Any business has challenges, but a services firm, I feel like it's just a little bit harder.
Yep.
I suppose one of the big challenges was GFC. One of them was the change of tech landscape. One of them. Yeah, I think. And how do you overcome it?
Yeah, I think obviously in those dips, the GFC, COVID, it's really bunkering down, scrambling to secure your next revenues, or making decisions in response to situation. I think a lot of, I guess, the challenges that we've experienced and where lessons are learned around not making decision. Indecision is the worst. Indecision costs you money, whether that's because you've got bench time or services that are not in demand over others that you might have in your portfolio. Indecision around customers that are, you need to have those tough conversations. And if you don't, then, it's going to continue to be tricky and you won't have alignment with how you're contributing to what they're expecting.
Okay. That's pretty insightful. What are the sort of business lessons you've learned as a business owner? And you just mentioned a few of those there as well. One of the things I see is a lot of people, when they need to resize a team for whatever reason, there's a shock in the economy, wherever you are, and all tech's changed and the services that have to replicate those changes as well. People try and sell the way out of the problem. And sometimes I think it's quite difficult to do that if you try and sell your way out. I suppose Any questions? Any sort of business owner type of generic questions you've learned as a business owner?
Look, I think it is important, I would say, to make sure you've got the right skills to engage with the customer. And your best and brightest technical is not necessarily your best business consulting skill. You know, we are in the business of transforming a customer's entire function, finance and other. It's not about the tech. It's about the being able to lead the customer on the journey transparently, to be able to run conversations, to be able to explain a lot of complexity in a simple, digestible way for the customer. And if you don't have that presence, then that sets you up for, suboptimal.
For sure. And that puts you as a business owner under pressure, I presume. So, yeah.
Well, it means you're playing rescue because,
for sure.
So that's
fixing things up the whole time. And
that's the risk.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty good. Thanks for that. All right. The future and the vision.
Yeah.
Let's last sort of a part of the, and we're nearly there. And what trends do you see in the IT services industry at the moment? What trends do you see at the moment that are impacting landscapes? You know, AI is one of them. Obviously, everyone's talking about that. I saw Elon Musk has just put $6 billion or raised $6 billion for his AI solution. So just imagine how much work you could do with $6 billion.
Yeah.
I just sat back and I was thinking about it about a day ago when it was released. And I was going, $6 billion. How many man hours could you use to build something?
Yeah,
it's amazing. But anyway, let's not try and solve those mega problems. But what challenges do you see shaping the future of the IT services industry, probably more particularly in your area?
Yeah, look, I think obviously the skill shortage is an ongoing theme, and how we differentiate in the market to attract the right people. I think there's lots of opportunity given the reset of work patterns there that allow us to provide work-life balance, lifestyle things. So I think being able to accommodate that and striking the right balance. Obviously we are very present with our customers on site, especially in the sort of stakeholder engagement design and lots of sort of hand holding points through the journey. Just really resourcing and finding creative ways to deliver without compromising the quality in the team is big. I think there's a lot of misconceptions in the market around what's available and what it can really do and how much effort is really, really required to make it work. So unless quite often our customers and the sort of technology stakeholders, they can't be across everything. Their pants are on fire already, keeping the lights on. So I guess that's always a challenge to get common understanding.
I think that's a pretty important thing to remember, that the customer's always in chaos, as I just said. And if you go to the customer, you've got to think they're always in chaos. And if they're not, that's a positive, but generally they are. So, and that's why you're there, to help solve that bit of that chaos. As a business, what are your sort of mid to long-term strategy or vision of where you're going to go as a business?
Yeah. Okay. So we really want to be, I guess, owning our space. So in that niche we've carved out around finance transformation and executing on ROI in really measurable ways. We want to differentiate against the out-of-the-box solutions, because the out-of-the-box solutions can only handle what's in the box. So we think we've got a nice niche there that we are, pursuing the prosecution of that vision.
Yeah, great. Any sort of role of technology involved in your business itself? Anything that you're going to be using to help your business?
So for us, we're not technology junkies in one particular flavor or of another. We build solution based on a multiple moving parts. Parts like robotics, machine learning, document ingestion, other AI components. There's a lot of people who can dance with the hammer, but they can't operate with the toolbox and knit the solution together. So we're solving complex problems for our customers with a portfolio of capability under the bonnet.
Okay, brilliant. Sort of last question, I suppose. Thanks for this for getting there. Is any advice for aspiring IT, consultants that want to, or contractors, or people want to move into consultancy and run a business? Any advice to business owners out there, potential business owners, I should say?
Yeah, I think depends on the pursuit, but I think partnering with one or ideally three of you would be probably one point of wisdom if you're sort of on the starting blocks.
So have not a single co-founder, but maybe 2 3 co-founders.
Yeah,
you're saying,
I think three's the ideal one to balance, a dispute between the others, or so I think that's important. Just working, writing things down, writing down the plan, the capability, the offering, what's the market, what is the value prop, who's going to buy it. Just think through the viability. That's worth the time.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think you said something early on, which is what I knew a lot. I worked for a great consultancy firm. I saw the rise of how they, did the winning so much work and delivering great projects.
Yeah.
But when I left that consultancy firm to start my own, it was a leap of faith. And, sometimes it's the less you know, the better. Otherwise you would probably, if you know too much, you probably wouldn't make the leap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, sometimes it's, just jump.
Yeah. And
your worst case, if you're really good enough, if it doesn't work out 6 months later or 9 months later, you can always go back to one of the big consultancy firms, where you left.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of the advice I give to people when they phone me up out of the blue and say, look, someone's giving me advice, give you a shout in. What are your thoughts on what have you got really to lose?
Yeah.
You got nothing.
Yeah.
Just a bit of pride and maybe a bit of cash and sets you back maybe 6 months or so.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good thing. Anything else that you would like to share at the moment, Ian? You've been through a lot this session. Appreciate it. But anything else?
No, look, I think just off the back of, the when you're sort of in that startup mode, even if you are doing it with others, but especially if you're not, it's really leverage the wisdom of others who've gone before you. Sure. You can't, there's so many things that in terms of issues and subjects and that require a skill base, and a single individual can learn a lot, but you can certainly fast track the pain of learning and or the lag of not knowing.
Yeah.
Just by leveraging network or advisors or coaches, because there are things you navigate and you just need sounding board.
Yeah, it's lonely being a business owner.
Yeah.
It is lonely, and it's challenging, and you've got to speak to people who have been through that or going through that.
Mm.
So getting into a community of some sort is really important.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much for that. It's very insightful, and thanks for catching up, and I appreciate your time.
Lovely to be here. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on IT Mastermind Talks. Don't miss out on our next episode. Hit the follow button and stay updated. Want to be our next podcast guest? Contact us and share your expertise with our audience. Visit www.itmastermindtalks.com for more information.